It's Tuesday, February 19th, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm tired.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Rome Demands. A review of Glory to Rome.
Let's do this.
What, you don't like my long openers?
The opener is supposed to be a title, right? If you go, this is the thing we actually, I shouldn't, it's, you know, it's like.
What do you mean you shouldn't talk? Is this a Geeknights secret?
Well, no, you know how some people, like, when they write articles, they'll have, like, ridiculously long titles that have way too much in them, right? You gotta
Why learn to stop worrying and love the bomb, that kind of thing?
Well, no, that's a good title. I'm talking about, like, you know, let's say there's a movie coming out, right? The headline should be, like, you know,
the boy who went up a mountain and came down a man?
Like, new movie in theaters, you know, new movie title in theaters this Friday. That's a great, you know, perfect, right? A bad headline would be like, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so star in action flick so-and-such and such.
What's wrong with
being
that?
released on... Because it's way too fucking long.
That depends on what you're doing. Is the headline, a lot
of that information belongs in the opening paragraph, surely. In fact, all of it does. But not in the headline, the title.
But
right?
The headline of Geeknights is whatever people see in iTunes.
You just need to name the title, and the rest goes in paragraph 1.
I don't know.
The title should have less.
I prefer drawing it out in a world where Rim and Scott review video games.
That's not the title. That is the tagline.
Which we use there because the title is in the ID3.
No, the title has to be short. You would be fired if you were the newspaper headline writer.
Or I'd be the best newspaper headline writer in the world.
No, you'd be fired because it wouldn't fit in the fucking newspaper cover.
It would fit just fine because newspapers are digital.
Most of those motherfucker front pagers are 2 words.
I was very proud of my tweet the other day that basically was talking about newspapers. Reader's Digest is like a printed This American Life for stupid people.
That's not a newspaper.
It's a print media. In fact, it's periodicals, which are doing worse than newspapers.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Because I guess I have a periodical. It's called Slashshot. It updates every 5 minutes. And that's the slow one for old people on the internet.
It sure is.
So I've been playing a lot of a game that I couldn't play when you were first playing it, but Super Hexagon at some point came to Android.
Oh, okay.
I started playing that, and
how good are you?
After about 3 days, I can consistently get to about 35 seconds on Hexagon.
Oh, so you suck.
I can get to about 25 seconds on Hexagoner.
Yeah, you got nothing.
And I can get to about 7 seconds on Hexagonist.
About the same.
That's what I get for about 3 days of playing this game.
I think I've actually unlocked Hexagonist. Or whatever, the hardest one, but
Hexagonister? It sounds like Zormelguster.
It is basically. I don't know. I forget what my scores are. I have to look again. I haven't played that in weeks, months.
Yeah, well, it's pretty fun. The one problem is you can't really play it on a moving subway unless you're sitting down. So that's the only time I play it. So I feel like my 30 seconds.
You gotta just play it before bed or something, just once while you're still.
30 seconds I got, like the first, like when I got to triangle.
Was on Subway shaky hard mode?
I was actually walking off of the N train as I was in the middle of it. I was like in the middle of this smooth run. I'm like, oh, fuck. And I just kind of walked and kept doing it. And then I died.
Rewind to a very old episode of Geeknights where I talk about trying to play DS Trauma Center.
I was going to say, I remember you playing Trauma Center.
On Metro North, right? Train.
Yeah, Subway is easily 10 times less stable.
That's sitting on a train. You're standing on a subway. It's like, whoa, way harder.
Yeah, it's not like you can sit either.
Nope.
So, news, a while ago, you know, Emily upgraded her video card from a card so old it uses the old nomenclature to 260, and then we just bought her a 660 because she's doing video and audio and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, rendering, and it's a good thing to have a good video card. So I'm still rocking my 260, which for gaming is fine, because I'm not really playing any super new games.
But for penis measuring sucks.
Also, can't use that for hardware rendering of effects in Premiere.
Let me tell you, once that Premiere GPU thing activated, it's like every video would just like load instantly, play instantly. I didn't have to push enter and wait for things to render. It just went like whoop and starts playing.
So the main trouble I have is, let's say I'm doing ghetto camera angles. So I got 3 cameras, and by zooming into different parts of the frame, I have, say, 9 camera angles of us in a panel. All right. So now I got 9 HD streams, and I want to watch them all simultaneously and live pick camera angles while I watch the whole thing. Yeah, I can't do that. So the way I did it last time is I only showed 2 of those streams, and I just noted which black box was which, and just kind of fuck it. It worked okay, but the only reason I haven't bought a 680 yet is because I was waiting for this time right now when NVIDIA starts to announce the next round of video cards, and all the older ones get a little bit cheaper.
I think the 780 is still a ways out.
Oh, no, it is, but they announced early, because I actually didn't expect them to announce the 7XX series until March.
Probably, maybe even 8, who knows?
Maybe, I was
It's got a
guessing
while.
March.
It's got a while.
But I wasn't paying attention to NVIDIA, and out of nowhere, they announced the GTX Titan is going to be available to consumers.
I don't think this is going to change the price of the 680.
Well, it didn't as of today.
I don't think it's going to, because
What's
it's
interesting is that there are numerous accounts that it performs right now about as well for like dollars per unit power as the 690.
Right. Well, here's what I think happened, right? Is basically they realized, hey, the 90s, the X90s, right? All of those, if people don't know, like 690, 590.
It's just an overclock 80.
It's just the 81 crazy overclock.
Well, kind of like how the 70 is usually just, it's binning.
Right,
It's one
and
that
then
just
they
kind of
jack up the price like by double and they overclock it. It's the same thing as the Intel Extreme series. It's the same i7 that I have, only they overclock it ridiculously and put their guarantee on it that it won't break.
Yeah, if I was
and
going
they
to give
charge
you
$1,000 for it.
If I was going to give you generic advice, get an X60 if you're just playing games. Get an X80 if you're also doing video editing and
I
want
would get
that Premiere
an
stuff.
X80 if you need it for anything and you can afford it, because the 80 is always the best.
60 was like $250 cheaper.
It's
though.
a lot cheaper, yeah. That's why I said if you can afford it.
And
Because let me tell you,
if
now that I
were
got
not-
the 680, I can play NS2 at max settings at 1900 by 1200 resolution.
I'll bet
at
the
60
660 can do the same thing
at 60
for
frames a
NS2.
second while recording it with fraps at 60 frames a second, and I never lose a frame.
the bottleneck on fraps is disk IO.
100% with a non-SSD I'm recording to.
Yeah.
And full frames.
Anyway, the deal with the Titan is that it was used in this big supercomputer, and it's kind of basically it's the most powerful like consumer video card ever.
Well, what it is basically it's like, hey, the 690 is just an overclocked 680, so it's crazy. But the Titan is actually like the next generation, but the actual next generation to make it affordable for us and normal people is a ways off. So they're like, well, we'll just give you the crazy rare super, computer edition if you really want to. It costs the same as the 690 and performs similarly, but it's more.
It has the CUDA cores like I use for rendering, but the thing is,
it's way more power efficient and makes less heat than the 690 because it's not an overclocked 680. It's a regular clocked supercomputer GPU.
it has so many of those CUDA cores.
Yep.
But it's $1,000.
Yep.
Yeah, not gonna buy one. But
No one, unless you are lottery winning. This really just buy a 680. If
so
you buy
I read a
690
review
or
from
one,
some dude who was like, "Yeah, so I SLI'd this motherfucker," and I'm like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
where did he go? If that is his only hobby, computer.
No, this was like reviewer got 3 of them.
If NVIDIA gives me 3 of them,
Yes,
sure.
my electric bill will go up substantially, and I'll get 10,000 frames per second, and that won't matter.
Fuck it, I'll take it for free.
Yeah, it's got 2,688 cores.
I'll take it. I'll run.
No,
I'll do
and
Bitcoin.
another 900
If
double
someone gave me
precision
those
cars.
fuckers for free, Bitcoin City, Bitcoin and folding it home.
It has as much RAM as my current computer had when I built it.
Sure.
6 gigs.
Sure.
Only 6 gigs, actually.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm hoping, because someone from NVIDIA, I can't super verify this, so take it with a grain of salt, but I read a report that someone at NVIDIA said that this series of cards, well, chips, is pretty much across the board going to be faster than the 7XX series of cards.
Probably.
And that, I don't know if this means they're going
If
to
you
branch.
spend 1,000, I mean, the 690 is more powerful than anything, so why wouldn't the...
These aren't going to replace the Quadro, so I wonder where these fit in their product line. Is it going to be like
the crazy
Quadro
No,
Titan 700 series?
It's for crazy rich people.
But what's the difference between this and the 700 series? Because if this is priced at $1,000, what are they going to price the 780 at if it's just worse?
The 780 will be $500 probably, just like the 680 was. And
Yeah,
the
but-
790 will probably be $900 to $1,000.
But the thing is, if the performance is that much different, and these are
Yeah,
just
the more
better.
expensive one is better, sure.
But now they've broken their model of now they're gonna have more tiers.
How have they? What do you mean? So, what do you mean they've broken
Well,
the
no,
model?
no. So the model they have their sort of like they have their high end like render whatever GPUs.
Right,
And then they have
quadros
their
are for professionals.
Yeah,
okay.
and then they have their GTX 4567.
Right.
Now they're gonna, in parallel to both of those, have the Titan series.
Right, for crazy rich people. What's the problem? How's that broken?
It just seems weird that that one of these will be about the same price point as the X90, and if the 700s are less, if the 700 like the 760 is the 780 let's say is slower than this.
Of course it's going to be slower. Why wouldn't it be? The 780 is going to be like $200. Of course it's got to be slower than
I
the
don't think the 780 is going to be $200. I think it's going to be $500 or $600.
Well, you said 760.
And I said 780, and so did you.
If the 780 is going to be $500, that makes perfect sense. Of course it should be slower than the $1,000 GPU. Duh.
Yeah, but where does this fit in the tier? Are they going to number these the same way? Will it be
No,
like
it's gonna have some different
760,
number.
7080 Titan? Are they going to be the 800?
No, the Titan isn't even numbered with a 7.
That's what I'm curious. How are they going to number them with something? Are they going to bin
Who
them?
cares what the fucking number is? The numbers don't even make sense anyway.
Well, actually, they kind of do make sense, like you just
The
said.
Titan is a thing that anyone can ignore because anyone listening to this is not stupid, just money coming out their butt.
The thing is, so how about this?
If you win a lottery, you can buy one of these fuckers.
Is there any reason on God's green earth to buy a 790 or a 690, let's say, a 690 instead of this if they're comparable in price?
No. You should. Yeah, the 90s become stupid, yeah. Because if you're going to buy a 90, right, if it's about the same price as the Titan, then get the Titan because it makes less heat and uses less electricity.
I guess the
for
reason
the same
I'm not
performance.
concerned as I'm curious is because there's been a trend over time with the naming of processors and components of computers to use the numbers to obfuscate the reality of the binning while simultaneously to confuse consumers and make certain cards or things appear to be better values than they actually are.
Well, here's the reason why. It's pretty simple, right? Somebody could come out of nowhere, right? Or like Intel or NVIDIA or AMD or whoever, and just start naming things 1, 2, 3.
Yep, but then their competitor will come out and say, yeah, well, here's the 9.
No. Here's the reason why that doesn't work. The reason why is because that simple numbering, right, is nobody who would need that simple numbering is a person who ever buys chips or GPUs. Anyone that marketing would work on is someone who just buys a full computer and doesn't even know what parts are in it, right? The only people buying computer parts are nerds like us, and complicated numbering systems work better to market to crazy nerds.
But I think they only do so partly because, especially I remember there's an era of Intel chips and a separate era of AMD chips where they'd have like a series, like a 600, 700, something like that. But then they'd have 50s in between. But there was no correlation between like 550, 650, 750, and 500, 600, 700. They were like this middle tier with weird amounts of cash and things. And it was unclear from benchmarks and the prices were all over the place. And I think it's just to be able to effectively capture prices from a wide demographic of people with varying levels of technical skills and research abilities. I'm not saying that's news. It's just I've always found it really annoying.
What do you? It's a reality of binning, as you said.
The reality that's a reality of binning coupled with a crass desire to do maximal price discovery against your
Well, I mean, you got all
customers.
these chips, they're binned, right? If you didn't do this sort of weird numbering thing, then everyone would sort of pick, one slot, and then basically all the other bins wouldn't sell, and the prices on them would drop. So basically, you obfuscate so that you can sell,
That's what I'm saying. You
price so that
obfuscate.
each bin sells in accordance with its quantity.
You
if you got a
obfuscate
lot in
for
bin
better-
A, you got to lower the price on bin A to sell more of those.
That's exactly what I said. You obfuscate your pricing by having these weird model numbers in order to do maximal price discovery against the majority of your customers.
Right.
Because
And
very
if you-
few people are going to figure, like
If
with
you
RAM
didn't
back in
do
the
it,
day.
bin C would be empty because everyone bought them all, and A, B, and D would be full, and you'd be like, fuck, I didn't sell any of these.
Yeah.
What do I do now? And then you have to lower the price in them so much to sell them that everyone's ripping your ass off.
Yeah.
And that's it.
All I said was it's always kind of annoyed me. I didn't have
What do
any
you want to do?
other...
What do you want to do about it?
I didn't even propose doing anything
Because
about it.
it's the way it's got to be.
Partly I bring it up because a lot of people don't realize it. A lot of people don't.
And you know what the fact is? is it's not even that big a deal because most of the chips aren't even sold directly to the customers that are seeing that marketing. They're being sold to like Dell buys a zillion of them.
Well, like
or
here's an
Apple
example.
buys a zillion
Recently,
of them.
I've had several friends be like, "Hey, I'm going to build a new computer. How's this build look?" Or they'd be like, they'd show me 2 CPUs, 2 Intel CPUs, 2 i5s. They're priced about the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're wildly. They have different speeds and caches and product numbers, and it's not clear the difference between them.
Probably, if they bought either one, odds are they wouldn't notice a difference in their everyday work anyway.
Probably.
They would
probably.
They would never know which one would have been better for them. If it saved them a microsecond here or there, they would never notice and would have no effect on their lives.
Oh yeah, probably.
Unless
so,
one of them is broken.
So, what that could cause, remember that TED Talk way back where the guy was like, if you pick between 2 pairs of jeans, you're going to be happy no matter what. If you
Yep.
pick between 1,000, you're going to be unhappy no matter what, even if you got better jeans objectively.
Yep.
I think all of this together contributes, probably not necessarily by design, but just in practice, to the weird upgrade cycle where people who are into computers upgrade more often than they need to, even when they can't themselves articulate the actual difference.
Because they had so many choices, they felt bad about the one they got.
Yep. I mean, I decide which processor to buy. I just list all of them in order by price, and I decide how much money I'm willing to spend, and then I look at what's there. The only other thing I do is look to see if there's a plateau that I didn't notice.
I buy the one with the most golden eggs and the one with the most trophies next to it on Newegg.
But what if one just came out that's better but hasn't gotten anything yet because
You
it's
can
new?
tell by looking at it if that's like the hot new one that's got the most eggs.
Well, yeah, because all the nerds buy it immediately.
Yeah, you know what you want.
Anyway, you got any news?
I do have a news that I'm trying to remember.
I think you want to talk about Valve, Steam.
Oh, yeah. So Steam Linux, which I think we've talked about before a zillion times, right?
We've scoffed and laughed.
Well, I
and-
mean, in ancient history, we've talked about, man, if only Steam would come out on Linux, I gotta switch back to Windows.
back when
'cause there's
back
no
when Linux
Steam
was my
on-
primary operating
I
system for a
gotta
couple
switch
of
back
years.
to Windows because no games on Linux, you know? And then
I used to do Geeknights in Linux and then
Resound.
reboot to play Counter-Strike.
Right. And then we talked about how, more recently it was in beta. Well, now it's out. You can get Steam for Linux for reals, and they put a sale on Linux games. And of course, there's not too many Linux games that you can get. There's just a few.
Come on, they got Serious Sam 3, Half-Life, and Counter-Strike. Source,
Okay.
not Go.
All right.
Who?
Go will be there soon enough.
Well,
But
we'll see.
All the Valve games will be there, which is, I guess, cool, right? And if they got Dota 2, because that's one of their games as well, that would be pretty big.
Yeah.
But I mean, NS2's not on there. In fact, you know what? If NS2 actually came out on Linux, and it worked just as well as the Windows one for reals, and there was a Fraps for Linux that worked as well as Fraps on Windows and such, I'm not really playing too many other games right now. I probably could switch to Linux.
See, you say that, but I
But I have a
did-
giant library of thousands of dollars of Steam games, most of which will never run on Linux, ever.
I did switch to Linux for a long time, and I went back because, I couldn't play any of my fucking games.
Yeah, it's like, if I didn't care about games, I'd probably be using Linux and nothing but Linux.
I'm really doubling down on the Counter-Strike lately.
It's
though.
really just an escape hatch for Valve in case, I could see, right, by the time Windows 9, Windows 10 comes along, right, 10, 15 years from now, it's like, well, Windows is pretty much dead. Desktop PCs are dead for most people, right? It's pretty much anyone who does have a desktop PC, it's gonna be Linux in, that far out from now when most people just use tablets and nothing else, or who knows, wearable devices and such, who knows? So it's really, hey, in order to keep making PC games, they need a PC platform, and if Windows disappears, you need this.
Yeah, so it's good to do the groundwork now. And also, it lets them get the expertise they would need to be able to pretty much straight up make a Steam console that actually was good.
Yeah, and it could also significantly just help the development of Linux itself to get all, more users, more focus on certain things. Maybe focus on the fucking audio that works.
Oh my God, audio that works.
Get some fucking audio that works,
audio just doesn't
assholes.
fucking work in Linux.
Yeah, what if my game has surround sound? I want to port it to Linux Steam. You better make that fucking surround sound work. So I can hear the skulks coming from behind.
Thing is, Scott, even if every game on Steam were on Linux with perfect performance and audio and video worked fine, you know what I still couldn't do on Linux? Make Geeknights.
That's not my problem. But the thing is, right, if the other desktop OSs, evaporate, even Adobe would be forced to put all its stuff on Linux. if it could, which may be very difficult for them.
I'm sure
But
they
they were able to get it on OS X and Windows, so I'm sure they could also.
I'm sure they have a similar escape hatch.
Yeah, they can do it if they really needed to.
They've actually been doing really well lately.
I'm thinking, right? Like, how often do they come out with a new Windows? Right, Windows 7 came out in 07, right? Is that correct?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. And whatever it came, 010 maybe.
010?
But I don't know when. I forget when it came out. But
10.
By 2030, who knows? Even desktop PCs or who knows?
You could have said the year 2525, but you didn't. You said 2030.
That's farther away.
Yeah.
By then, for sure, nothing that we know will be.
Well, we had like Windows 11 and the PS5.
How old will we be? Like 70 something?
In the year 2525, we will be long dead.
Are you sure?
You will be long dead.
Oh, will I?
But anyway, things of the day. Someone, and by someone I mean the LOTR project, took Tolkien's main works, Return of the King, Fellowship of the Ring, The Hobbit, Two Towers, Silmarillion, and they just did a huge big data analysis thingy that's pretty cool. And you can just kind of fuck around with, how often do different characters co-occur with one another? What is the average sentiment per sentence across the books? What are the most commonly used unique words in each of the books? You could click around in here forever. It's just, there's weird stuff. Like, you'll look at this graph of like character co-occurrence. You're like, what's that dot all the way out over there? Oh, it's some hobbit. Well, he knows this other hobbit. You can just go down this chain forever.
Okay.
It's actually pretty cool. And apparently the most common words in the Return of the King are came shall Pippin, far long dark Aragorn looked, come men, great away Lord, merry King, went Frodo like Gandalf Sam.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. The Hobbit is like Bilbo, Thorin, Mountain.
That's about right. Bilbo. All right, so I have not been to as many concerts as some people have in their lives. It's not my number one thing or close to it, but I have been to quite a few in my day, more than some. And it is a common thing at concerts in the United States that no one sits in chairs. Everyone stands and people get pretty close. They pack it in, right? And if it's a metal concert or a rock concert, there may be moshing, dancing, rocking, headbanging, cheering, jumping, all kinds of stage diving activities. One activity that does not happen, especially at the arena concerts, right? But even at the small concerts, is the on-stage getting. You do not get on the stage. There are usually 3 or 4 large people at the front.
I pulled it off once in my entire life.
With the
yes,
what's her
RIT.
name?
Yeah, I forgot her name too.
Anyway,
I will look her up. Vana? I think it was Vana.
Yep. Anyway, from Croatia.
Yeah.
If you try to get on stage, they will stop you. If you stage dive to the front, they'll just grab you and push you back into the crowd.
Hell, if the talent on stage tries to pull you up, usually the bouncers will be like, hell no.
That's right, insurance, motherfuckers. If you do manage to miraculously get on the stage, they will come on and tackle you and, pull you away, right? Because, maybe you're trying to stab the performers. They don't fucking know, right? However, here's a video on YouTube from a guy who got on stage with Steel Panther somehow. All right, he's up there with Steel Panther, and security's not going after him. I don't know what's up for the first few seconds because they don't show how the hell he got up there. And then the guy in Steel Panther, who's the only one you can hear. You can't hear this guy talking because he has no microphone, right? Apparently, he claims he can play all their songs on guitar. He asked to borrow the guitarist's guitar, and the guitarist is like, "You're fucking full of shit." And they give him the guitar. And then, holy shit, all I can say is that the actual guitarist doesn't know what the fuck to do when he doesn't have his guitar. You gotta watch this, because this is the kind of thing that will happen never again, ever. So to know that it did happen, though, please try this. Try to do this. If you're not me, go for this.
Try to do this.
That's
all
right.
of you out
Anyone
there.
who is not me needs to try to make this happen at every concert. I'm not going up against the large security people.
I think the best would be if you convince the band to hand you the instrument and then you just fucking suck.
You fucking just throw it in the audience to your friend, and then he runs out.
Yeah. Or you just start playing Stairway like out
The
of
guy
nowhere.
even says, he's like, this is my guitar costs $250. If you break a string, you are right. Anyway,
I have a mouthpiece for my trumpet that cost almost $250.
he was joking. It might have been a $250 guitar, but not likely. It was probably more than that, right? Anyway,
Could have been like $300.
it's time for something.
Meta moment.
Or thing. Oh, it was the thing of the day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, meta moment number
Scott
one.
is tired.
I'm
If
tired.
you would like Scott to be less tired, donate money.
Donate sugar. If I drank Red Bull, I would do that now, but I don't.
No,
Okay.
Scott, I got to tell you, you wouldn't like Red Bull. I know you wouldn't. One is carbonated.
I've tasted. Oh, I thought it wasn't. I
No,
thought it was
it's-
just like sugary syrup.
It's lightly carbonated.
Oh,
You would not
I
like
tasted
that.
it before. It tastes like cough medicine.
So, you take cough medicine when you're sick?
No.
Really? Never? Not if you're like sick and coughing and the doctor's like, take some fucking cough medicine?
When I was a kid, I did, but now I know it doesn't fucking work.
True, but that's a separate thing. So what if it did work? Because Red Bull does work in terms of not being tired anymore.
Because it might have some horrible side effects,
It doesn't.
like having a heart attack and die.
No, it's just caffeine and taurine and
Heart attack
Glucose.
and die. Sure. All right, so meta moment number one. The book club book is
The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. We're going to do a show on it on Thursday. I hope you've read it. If you haven't read it yet, just read it. It'll take you like an hour.
Unless you can't read, which case that's a fucking problem.
It's a short
And
story.
if that is a problem that you have, even more reason to read, so you get fucking better at reading, illiterate person.
It's also a pretty good book, and the umbrage the young kids took with the book was surprising. Like,
Anyway,
I can think of worse books.
meta moment number two is a new meta moment, everybody. I'm going to announce something that was already announced on the internet.
Hey, Scott, before you announce, I'm going to say one thing.
What?
It's all you.
It is all me. It doesn't matter.
I made the thing clip with my
already-
clap.
Okay, I already got this. So some talking was going on in the forum, and I had
Of a shit variety, possibly? A shit talk?
a shit talk was happening, and I realized, hey, this shit talk is actually really easy to do and not shit talk. So I said, hey, even though I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff like Kineticon, still got to do something for PAX Aus and East and Anime Boston.
I started writing that one panel.
Yeah, I'm going to start doing the other one maybe this weekend. This will take me like no time at all. So why the hell not do this instead of shit talking it? So here's what we're going to do. We're already doing it. It is the FRC Gaming Grand Prix of 2013. Perhaps it could be the inaugural one. Perhaps it could be the first annual. We'll see if it ever happens again.
This
but
is an experiment in all senses of the
at
word.
least one of these is happening. We are going to determine the best in gaming of listeners of Geeknights and Rim also, because I am the
Well, I am technically
sole-
listening to Geeknights right now.
I am the sole
so
judge,
we are, in fact, listeners.
jury, game selector, and rules maker of this
I
entire
love
thing.
the fact that when you announced this in the forum, I posted a picture of you as the game master from Hunger Games, and I didn't realize you'd never actually seen the movie.
Yeah, I read it. I know what that is. I just didn't know, Anyway, so here's how it works. First, you have to join our forum if you're not in there already. 2, you need to go to the thread. It's the top thread. Number 3, you need to post in that thread by March 1st that, yes, indeed, you are in. If you are in, your name goes into this public Google Doc that only I can edit. So far, believe it or not, there are 35 names on this list of people who are competing for the title of Best Gamer in FRC. Then, on March 1st, I will announce the game of the first round. I have already chosen all 4 of the rounds, believe it or not.
Oh my god, the
I
trophy has
only-
to be this basketball Blanca trophy
I
that
think
this
we
guy
really
posted.
only have time for 4 rounds. The rules of each round will be decided by me on a round-by-round basis. You'll score points. The top 10 finishers in each round will score championship points, just like in F1 Grand Prix. After the 4, races, Grand Prix, whoever has the most points will win. I'll keep adding new rounds if there's ties, so we'll guarantee we will not end in a tie. I'm going to make sure that every game selected is not a game or rule set that will exclude or disadvantage anyone. So I'm not going to pick games, for example,
But
where...
Scott, I have neither arms nor legs.
Oh, well, you might be disadvantaged. But I'm not going to, for example, pick a game where ping matters because we have international combatants. I'm not going to pick a game that is expensive and difficult to obtain because international or financially challenged combatants may not be able to compete.
You're not going to make it
I'm not going to choose
Kaboom, Quake 2,
I'm not
going to
choose
and push-ups.
A PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 or Wii U exclusive game because someone might not have that console or even if they did, they might not want to buy that game. So every game is going to be something that everyone will be able to play. There may be multiplayer, there may be single player, there may be all kinds of things going on. If you want to prove that you have more gaming skills than other people, it may be tabletop, it may be video, it may be who knows what, right? If you want to prove that you're the best and win, with this many entrants, I'm already guaranteeing at least a prize for at least the top finisher, if not more.
It's pretty easy to get trophies made, or we could give them the belt.
Or at worst, Amazon gift cards or board games of their choice or who knows what, right?
They'll get 10 copies of Hellas.
Something like that. Board games I have that I don't want anymore. A pile of comics that's sitting on my floor that I don't want anymore. Who knows?
I got this old Samsung battery sitting here.
Sure, right? There'll be prizes for whoever is on the podium. Size of podium has yet to be determined. But at very least, I guarantee the winner gloating rights. And in fact, even if you don't win, there are already 35 people that you might be able to gloat over if you're ahead of them, even if you're in second place.
You just made, in the future, the dude who's actually in last place feel really bad.
Oh, this is going to actually, every game is actually going to be a fair test of skill. There's not going to be a lot of luck or forgiveness here. So, yeah, last place should feel bad. But I am good. There's going to be great variety, right? So even if you're bad at gaming overall, one of these games may be up your alley. And if you just score pretty much any number of championship points, considering in any round only less than a third of players will get even 1 point, scoring even a championship point will put you ahead of people, right? So in any round, you can always make a big comeback. So there you go. Sign up for this before March 1st when it begins, and signups will close and the games shall begin. Even cowards have come. There are many cowards who said, "Hey, I'll just watch," and then they have come back to sign up.
I like to watch.
That's right. And the other meta moments, I guess PAX East is the next convention.
PAX East, we're going to be there doing 2 or 3 events. We're also enforcers.
Yeah, great.
I'm excited about that. It's going to be a fun time.
Woo! You can sign up to be an enforcer too. If you're not a coward who doesn't want to join the Grand Prix.
The passphrase to join the secret forum and all that stuff was actually really cool and inspiring. I like all this business.
Sure.
It's exactly what every other con I joined the staff of should have been like.
Okay, let's move on to the main bit.
So, for a while, I would see and Scott would see a game at conventions. We talked about this a little bit in a previous episode.
Well, you go to any library at a gaming convention, right? The tabletop library, and there's always these games you see there every fucking time, and you never ever play them. But it's like the game that's been there for years and years and years. And there's sort of like these games sort of clump up to each other. Like they're not the hot new games.
You'll see like Fortress America, and laying on top of that is like
a Red Dragon Inn.
Oh my god.
And a Shea Geek.
Yep.
And maybe
hey
I guess.
Guys, you want to play Shea
But
Geek?
sometimes when you go in there, you find a gem. For example, I found Hive in one of those piles of forgotten games.
Yeah, and I'm glad we bought it because now the re-release version's not as
and
pretty
Hive
looking.
is suddenly popular, huh?
Yeah.
So one of those games I always saw in that pile but didn't realize was a game called Glory to Rome.
Now, if nothing else, the tale of this game is a tale of how graphic design actually matters a lot.
A fuck ton. But I've noticed a lot of people lately, especially Kickstarter games, sorry, Luke, people are making board games where all they have is graphic design and the game itself.
My word, for example,
and that is almost more disappointing.
For example, Viva Java, haven't reviewed it yet, got to play it again, but I worry.
Viva Java is not that bad compared to a lot of the ones I'm seeing.
True, but
I saw
worry.
one that was like beautiful graphic design, roll your dice, move your mice, and it's like, what the fuck?
But Glory to Rome had the opposite problem. It is actually a pretty great game, but if you look at this, I mean, pause and click on this link and look at this game. This is the kind of game you see and you just your brain just blocks it
It's
out.
the kind of thing that they sell like on that table next to the counter at the checkout of the game store that never sells even a single copy.
Yeah, like you look at that, you look at the cheap ass game next to it, you buy the cheap ass game
sitting next to
instead.
three Zune decks, not ZOON.
Oh my god, I remember that.
Right, a copy, an old print of Cobalt's Ate My Baby.
Yep.
A cheap ass game.
Maybe some Ice House.
And some Ice House pieces.
Not anymore though. People are buying those up.
And one of those D20s with a D20 inside of it, and a D6 with a D6 inside of it. You know, every game store has that little spot. Oh, and the dice bag with the flame pattern on it.
So the game was ignored by pretty much everyone because it was pretty ugly.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know how those copies got distributed. Right?
And seeing, like, trying to play it with that old set, like seeing it laid out, it's actually kind of confusing to even play.
It's confusing to play even with
like
the new
it's hard
set.
to see what's going on. It's just, so there was a Kickstarter to just make the same game but beautiful, and with a few minor exceptions,
like the sewer card.
Yeah, the sewer card is beautiful. It's just very bad graphic design.
Well, bad information design with the words being split up by the water spilling out of the sewer.
Yeah, there's a few, two different graphic designers we know said the game is beautiful, but it has a few clearly amateurish design mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's otherwise beautiful.
Much better than the old one.
It is the exact same game, yet it is amazing because you'll actually play it, and it feels good to play. It feels clean. It feels nice. So we're the kind of people
confused to hell.
We're the kind of people who always say, yeah, I don't care what the game looks like. I only care about the gameplay. And that is true to a point. Had I been tricked into playing the old Glory to Rome, I probably would have liked it and would have given it a positive review and continued to play it. But it wouldn't have felt nice to play. There is something to be said for aesthetics. For example, playing a Tigris and Euphrates, I think a lot is added to it by the graphic design and the way the game is put together and the feeling you get. It feels like an ancient game, even though it isn't, just because of the way the iconography is. So, Glory to Rome, actually kind of a complicated game, but it's interesting because elements in this game are in other games. For example, Glory to Rome is probably the first game most people would know of that has the mechanic of someone takes an action, everyone else either follows or does something else. You might notice that from Race for the Galaxy.
Or Puerto Rico.
Well,
where you have to follow.
Yes.
Kind of.
So Puerto Rico is the mechanic of one person chooses an action, everyone else also gets to do the action. This is a little different. Someone chooses an action, and everyone else can either follow and do the same action, or think, and then they draw some cards to refill their hand.
Yep.
It also has the San Juan mechanic of every card is both card and currency.
Yep. A lot of games have that.
There are no bits in this game.
I think
except
World of
the
Warcraft
cards.
card game does that also, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a common and often it's an interesting mechanic, though it can be done poorly.
And so does Race to the Galaxy.
But cards do a lot of things in this game. Cards are effectively victory points, but indirectly. Cards are actions. Actions can be either played or part of some other part of the game called clientele. Cards are also buildings. And here's where the game gets interesting. One, the card building powers are almost on the Dune level. It's like you set up this basic game.
Some are far greater than others.
Well, yes, because some are clearly more expensive and therefore superior. But it's got the Dune situation going on. So if we just described the rules of the game, you'd be like, okay, it's a pretty straightforward game. I build buildings, then I put some stuff in my vault, and I do these basic actions, and the game's really straightforward. But then you read the building cards, and every card is like, break this rule in a way that seems broken. Like, here's a good example. There's one card called the Garden.
I love the Garden.
Not knowing any of how this game works, what the Garden says is upon completion, you may take one patron action for each influence you have.
Now, keep in mind, as soon as you finish the garden, you get 3 influence for finishing the garden. So therefore, you're going to take at least 3 patron actions, if not more, immediately. I tend to build the garden early in the game. I've done it a few times so far.
I built it once late in the game and drew 15 fucking patrons.
If you haven't patroned the whole game, sure.
Yeah,
but I used it early in the game, and it's just 5 patrons right at the start.
I won that game by like 20 points.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how did 15 patrons get in the pool?
Well, I actually only pulled in, I think, 12 or 13, but now the pool was empty.
Oh, yeah, you completely empty that motherfucking pool.
Exactly. And then I just finished the game with my million actions.
Of course.
So that card basically lets you do, imagine if you're playing Puerto Rico and, all right, captain 9 times. Just do it 9 times. No one else gets to. And they're all like this. The really cool thing about this game is that it's actually, despite it looks really complicated. Like you look at how to play it, and there's a reason I'm not explaining how to play the game because without visual aids,
It's impossible.
there's no way I'm going to explain it in a way that you would understand.
Here, I can explain the gist, right?
All right.
Is that everyone has cards in their hand and you draw more by thinking, right?
Yep.
And you have basically there's 5 different places cards can be. They can be, well, I guess the deck, your hand, I guess there's going to be 7 places.
Already.
The deck, your hand, right? The shared deck, the deck is shared. The pool, which is this middle of the table area. And then on each person, we'll have 4 other places, which are influence, their clientele, their stockpile, and their vault, right? And to score points, you got to get cards to become influence by building buildings or put them in the vault where they're worth points.
Now, influence are victory points, but the other cool
Right.
thing is that the amount of influence you have limits how many things can go in your vault.
Right. Everything else you are doing is just, with the stockpiles and the clientele is a way to get more actions. The stockpile is a way to get more cards out of the pool and into your control, right? And to help you build buildings without anyone else, right? And it's really just how can I build buildings and to get more influence, to get more stuff in the vault using this machine of card playing.
Yep. Now, the machine gets a little complicated because it's sort of multi-staged in the sense that, I'm trying to think of a really good example of this. All right, so your vault, right? You putting stuff in the vault is the captain of this game. Just put stuff in the vault, you just get victory points, just straight up, just tons of victory points. But your vault is limited by your influence. You have to build buildings to get more influence to put more stuff in the vault.
Yep.
To build buildings, you need to take all these other actions, so the crank to turn it around in your machine already is pretty circuitous.
And no one else is cranking along with you, right? Everyone takes turns choosing what to crank, and they're cranking out of sync with you. So how do you capitalize on that?
So rather than get into the depth of how to play the game, I want to just review the game and talk about why it's good and maybe what problems it has. Reason number 1 why this game is good or at least interesting. It avoids a problem that has bothered me for a long time, but I never had a good way around it. I call this problem, I'm going to give it a long title, when you have to stop the game of Power Grid, pull out the rules, and look up just what the fuck happens in Phase 3 because nobody remembers the details. That happens in so many modern board games. You're playing, but then there's a game phase change, or an end of game, or a start of game of, how many bits do we put out in a 4-player version? Then someone else sits down, 5-player. All right, we need 7 more bits.
Yep.
This game has none of that. There is one piece of setup. Every player gets 5 cards in their hand. There's a number of sites out. It is just equal to the number of players. That's it.
Yep. No remembering there.
And you just draw 1 card for every player in the game, and that sets the pool. That's it. There is nothing to remember. The number of players determines every number that matters in the game.
Yep. So once you know and the game ends when it ends immediately.
So that's the other piece. End game. This game gets around the situation of, I almost said
Do we go
bonitis.
around another round and then it's over?
Oh, so
does
I drew
everyone
the
get
last
an equal
card.
number of turns and then it's over?
I drew the last card. Does the game end immediately? I built the last building. Do we finish the round? So I can't finish the auction phase, but there's none of that. This game fucking ends.
When
I say
ends,
fucking ends, it ends in a catastrophic fashion. The game, if you draw the last card from the deck at any point, the game immediately ends. Immediately is an interrupt, the likes of which I've never seen in games before.
Yeah, so there's basically no question. Netrunner has the same game-ending interrupt, right?
True.
You get 7 points. Jinteki doesn't do a damage for that score. You win. You get 7 points. Game over. Boom, right?
Yeah, Scott plays the legionary action. Instead of following, I draw the last cards. No more actions happen. We just score.
Yep.
So another way the game ends is if you build the last sort of in-town site. Buildings go on top of sites. There's a cool mechanic there. So the rule book even points out, if this occurs, there is no possible way to finish that building.
Of course not.
Because there are no more actions to take. The game ends immediately. There is a building, a card. There are multiple of them in the deck. the catacombs. If anyone builds it, the game immediately ends.
Yep.
And there's another card, the Forum Romanum.
The best card that I've tried twice and got close once.
So, the Forum Romanum. You will know, there's one other endgame condition before I talk about the Forum Romanum. It is in the book. If all players agree unanimously to surrender the game to a single player for any reason at any time.
Oh.
That's in there for whatever reason.
Well, I guess someone could just start running away with it and you don't want to finish it.
Yeah. So, the Forum Romanum, if anyone builds this, and again, there are multiple of them, and all of these conditions are true simultaneously. It is a completed building in front of them. They have one of every type of card in their clientele. They have one of every type of card in their stockpile.
Very hard.
They immediately win. The game immediately ends. Scores do not matter.
Mm-hmm.
Reason number 3 why this game is actually pretty cool. The game is set such that the number of things you need to finish a building is equal to the victory points that thing is worth, and the colors all line up. And if you play the game, you'll see what I mean. Everything lines up. Every number makes sense. You don't have to think about anything except how you're trying to win. Like all the numbers of nouns of things to put in things is just so intuitive. And the last reason why the game is great, beyond all that, is that scoring is dead simple. The game ends and just, that's the score.
Yep.
Scoring takes basically 0 time.
You count your influence, you count the number of points in your vault, you hand out these bonus cards to whoever earns them, and then you add 3 points to whoever got a bonus card, per bonus card.
Now, in terms of gameplay and winning the game, I've won almost every game of it I've played since we played it with our friend Pete and his associated crew, who were playing it wrong the entire time they owned the game.
Yep.
I read the rules once and realized they were playing wrong. I feel bad for them, but that's how the cookie crumbles. But I win a lot, and I got the opportunity at Nerd NYC last week to teach the game to a bunch of people who never played it before, never even heard of it.
I wasn't there, I was playing Netrunner.
And play it with them multiple times. And it was interesting because it was a smart group who took their turn. And the first round, I ran away with the game. Like, it was just pointless. I just won. Like, I didn't even have to do anything. The second game was super close, and I didn't win. So after that initial learning phase, people who are smart pick the game up right away. But the end game strategies, I think, are very complex. This game, if I had to say, probably breaks down like a Dominion, in the sense that based on the set of cards that people have in their initial hands and the flow of cards into their hands, you're trying to come up with the most efficient machine, simultaneously trying to deny and hurt other people's strategies based on the machines they're making.
Yeah, one thing that I, only thought of doing since I've last played the game is I realized the true power. The games I've played in the Legionary was not used much, right? And I was trying to think, well, why wasn't the Legionary used very much, right? It's like people, everyone just does labor and craft and architect.
See, I don't. I Legion a lot. Legionary forgot.
Okay, it's because people want to build their buildings, right? So they keep choosing architect, laborer, and craftsman. And I realized, no. What you have to do is if the people around you are doing better than you and you're getting behind, right? If you try to build buildings with those actions,
they're also going to build
You're
buildings.
helping them build buildings. Legionnaire is it's a catch-up action that people don't realize is a catch-up action. What you do with Legionary is you don't and here's the other mistake. People took Legionary and they looked at the buildings they were trying to build and asked for that resource.
No. You look at the buildings other people are trying to build.
You look at the buildings the other people are building. You ask for that resource to come on over to fuck them from building their buildings. That's what the Legionary is about.
Legionary basically is a cool mechanic.
It's not obvious to do that.
This is another reason why I like this game. Anytime games present rituals or things you're supposed to say or do in the course of the game that makes sense, I generally like it. And Glory to Rome, people who play the game will always be like, Rome demands, blowjobs. Because if you play Legionary, you go around clockwise, everyone in Legion takes their hand, puts one card from their hand face up. You gotta have the thing in your hand to demand it.
Yeah, you gotta say like this, you people who don't speak Roman.
So put it down
Give
and
me
say,
these.
Rome
See what this
demands
is? I demand.
And any player who does not have that thing in their hand simply is instructed to say, glory to Rome.
Yep.
I have nothing to offer Rome but glory.
Yeah, Rome comes over and points at a pile of rocks and says, give me those. And Rome demands a rubble. And they say, there's no rubble around here. Glory to Rome. And usually we just say, Rome, go fuck itself. Fuck you, Rome.
The
Got
game
no rubble here,
encourages
Rome.
the sort of, renaming things. I noticed I just said doubloonum every time we reset the pool. And not only did no one blink at that, but they all understood exactly what I meant because they'd all played Puerto Rico before.
Yep.
There's one problem with this game.
There's a few.
Well, here's the biggest problem. Remember way back and we told everyone how Sanctuary and Eagle are these great manga, but you can't buy them? Mm-hmm. You can't buy Glory to Rome.
That is a problem.
Glory to Rome, this new re-released awesome version was a Kickstarter, and as far as I can tell, there's basically no way to get it unless you Kickstarted it. I bought it at a significant premium from someone who got it in the Kickstarter on Amazon, secondhand.
You might be able to get one at eBay or who knows, right? Something like, check the eBay, see if there's any on there.
I'm checking
You
the
also
Amazon.
might be able to buy the original version with the shitty graphic design. You may be also...
All right, there are 3 available right now on Amazon for $60, $75 each, plus significant shipping.
Yeah. So I guess it's possible to get it if you have dollars.
No, one of these says plastic shell version. Nope. Don't want that one. You want the black one.
That's right.
I'll link to a picture of the good and bad one so you can't mess this up.
You want to get the one that looks like it's a Nazi game. That's the one. That's the good one, sadly.
In a Roman game.
The black box it's got that freaking Nazi eagle on the front.
It's not a Nazi eagle, it's a Roman eagle.
Was original. The Nazis stole it from the Romans, so...
Anyway.
And it doesn't help that he's got a red flag under him.
So other problems with the game are that it's really fun, but the actual directional heuristics in this game, from playing competently to playing well against experts, are incredibly obtuse.
Yep.
I think I've got a handle on a few of them, but I haven't played enough to be sure. And I'm not sure how deep that rabbit hole goes. But I've noticed that counting cards doesn't matter that much because the deck is huge. But paying attention to which cards have come out or not is a big deal. If you know that all 3 catacombs were used as materials early on, then you don't have to worry about the game ending early. Because there are ways to set up a combo, lay down a catacomb, and finish it in all one go.
Think about this, right? You can build a stone building early. Catacombs only cost 3 to, right? I built gardens early, so why not a catacomb?
I've seen people win the game with 5 victory points. They just build the catacombs right away.
So if you do an early merchant before anyone else, and then you do a catacombs, the catacombs is 3 points, and the merchant puts you ahead of everyone else, probably by at least 3 points.
But if you see someone start to build the catacombs just immediately, and you merchant, you're basically preventing them from finishing the catacomb because they'll lose because you will have more points probably.
Maybe. Depends how much you merchant.
Doesn't matter because even if you merchant a wood with that 3-point bonus for having the most wood, you'll have 4 extra victory points instead of his 3 extra.
Well, ideally, you would remember what he merchanted and merchant 2 of whatever he merchanted.
Probably if he's trying to blitz catacomb, he hasn't merchanted dick because he's trying to just finish it as quick as possible.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Tough call.
I don't know. It's a pretty fun game. I'm surprised at how quick it is to teach and how quick it is to play. Like, I'm actually really surprised considering how complex it feels.
You look at it, you're like, this is going to be pretty confusing to a lot of people, but people sort of get it, actually, relatively quickly to what you would expect.
So, Scott, so the play sheets are really well designed, but what Scott uses, there's 2 sides. One side just summarizes what each action does, and one side shows this really complex, over-engineered diagram of the flows of cards.
The chart is way better.
Yes, 1 in 5 people think that Scott's side is better. Every time I run this game for people, it's always 5 players. One dude puts that side face up, and everyone else puts the other side face up.
Chart side is way better because the cards are in different places, and that side.
How many games of Glory to Rome have you won?
Shows you arrows from which place they go to. What does that have to do with which side is better?
So I wonder if that side is seeding your brain in a poor way.
Maybe.
I don't know.
The real problem with Glory to Rome is that there is a large random card element, right? Like, you could draw some awesome buildings at the beginning, and also the cards required to build them and to play them. It could just happen, and then you're going to get off to a great start no matter what anyone else does.
It gets around that by there aren't really direct paths to building buildings and finishing them from your hand. There's one action that does that, the craftsman. to be able to effectively crank your machine, you got to be building from multiple sources. So you need to get materials not just from your handout, but into your stockpile and then out.
Yeah, because someone else might pick architect, and then what do you do? Think?
And the pool is only refilled by the actions you're taking. So there are actually really complex directional heuristics around, do I lead merchant because I want to do the merchant action, or do I lead merchant with 2 other cards to be a wild card because I don't want any stone to go into the pool?
Yep.
The more, you know
of
what?
course, yeah.
The moral of this review is, if you can get a hold of this game and you're a gamer, it's a gamer's game. This is a great game to whip out with other tabletop gamers because, one,
It doesn't take that long. It doesn't take up a lot of space.
You can just play it quickly. Actually, it takes up more space than you'd expect.
I mean, space in the box.
Oh, yeah. But 2, most people are not going to have this game. So there's a lot of novelty, and you can teach it quickly. And if you whip this out at a board gamer party, it's going to get played all night because people just don't have access to it right now.
And people like saying glory to Rome.
Yeah. The game's just really fun, and if you're a board gamer of any stripe, this is just one of those games you should own.
Yep.
Straight up, I unqualifiedly say that you should own it, even though I'm pretty sure it's going to break down far more rapidly than, say, Puerto Rico under continued
this
play
is
among
not
experts.
like some all-time great game, but it is a game that you should play.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.